it was, but we didn't get it. All the money went to the lower tax.
Oh,
Everybody.
locally.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen it. The rest of all.
We're gonna do quick introductions.
Being outside.
That was a good thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Will, do you wanna do that before time?
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for asking.
All right.
I didn't want
This-
to.
We're on the air right now.
are we?
Hi, Michael.
Hey, there's another one.
How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. I'm sure we'll still have a few more folks coming in, but I'm just going to get us started and oriented towards the evening.
I'll sit here.
And to do that, I'll introduce myself. My name is Will Dudenhausen. My role in this meeting is as a neutral third party, an objective facilitator. My role here is to just make sure that the meeting goes well, to make sure that we stick to the guidelines that we've agreed on and come up with mutually coming into this space, to make sure we reach our desired outcomes, and to follow the agenda that we've agreed on coming into tonight, which you all, at least were offered a copy coming in, I hope. If not, there are some copies in the back. And we have a lot of new faces that weren't here, so I want to do the briefest, the quickest of intros, if we could, to go around the room as quickly as we can. And just tell me your name and where you're coming to us from. I'm Will. I see you all have hello, my name is, and I don't have one of those, but I'm Will. I'll put one of those on while you introduce yourself. But maybe if we could start up front here with Monica and just kind of go around the room as quickly as we can.
I'm Monica Dodson. I'm one of OWASA's deputy executive directors.
Great. Pass it to Bob.
Hi, I'm Bob Proctor. I live in Village Square on Philadelphia.
Keep it moving.
I'm Amanda Storyward. I'm the DEIB specialist here at Wausau.
My name's Stephen Ayers. I live at 108 Gotham Circle.
My name is Frank Orton. I live in Lincoln Park, 200 Prince Street.
Mo Rashid, Utilities Engineer for OWASA.
I'm Karen Setti, OWASA Board, and I live in Chapel Hill.
Pedro Garcia, OWASA Board, live in Chapel Hill.
Todd Taylor, OWASA Executive Director.
Michael Hughes, OWASA Board.
Mary Tiger, Director of Community Relations for OWASA.
Katie Hall, I'm the Public Information Officer for OWASA.
I'm Stephen Winters, OWASA's other Deputy Executive Director.
Bob Epting, the General Counsel for OWASA.
Elmira Mango. I live in Carborough, and I'm on the OWASA board.
Sarah Sterling, I'm also at 119 Fidelity. JJ Hurst, I also live at 119 Fidelity. Emily Bright, Center 806 Davis. Waiting by Maple Avenue. Sharon Riley, Maple Avenue.
Brian Linfield, Chapel Street.
Bishop Gatter, OWASA Director of Engineering.
Heather Wasser, Blossom Circle.
John Harrison, 102 Blossom Circle. Thanks, good to see you all again. And then,
John, Chapel Hill, OWASA.
great, cool. And then we have some folks that came in at the back too. We were just doing brief intros, his name and where you're coming to.
Maddie, Blossom Circle.
Christine, Blossom Circle. Dorothy, Blossom Circle. Tamara, Davy Road.
Jason, I'm from Lincoln Park, 212 Prince Street.
I'm Bree, I'm the comm specialist for OWASA.
Fantastic. Did we end up getting everybody there?
New folks coming in.
We have a couple more coming in. We're not going to put them right on the spot, right, when they walk in. That's not fair for anybody, you know. We'll give them a second to sign in and everything, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So again, my name's Will. I'm going to be facilitating this evening. A couple of things real fast. Restrooms, right through there, but you kind of got to walk through the break room and then turn left and they'll be right there, okay? Other thing, we're being recorded right now. So this meeting is being recorded. So yeah, you can say hi, everybody. It's also being live streamed as well. So it's live streamed and recorded. So just, I want everybody to be aware of that coming in, and that was by request of folks that may not be able to make it tonight or might want to catch the meeting later. Okay? So you should have an agenda in front of you. I'm gonna go over it in a second, but I'm gonna pass it to Todd to sort of welcome us here and sort of level set on kind of where we're at and in the process for those of you that are just coming for the first time, and have a good idea of what to expect for the rest of the process. Thanks.
Thanks, Will. And yeah, I'm Todd Taylor, WASA's Executive Director again. And I just want to say welcome, friends and neighbors. It's good to see you all again. And want to thank you for coming and tuning in out there in TV land to our second community meeting in our series on WASA's decisions and actions to address our upcoming needs for employee and equipment parking. We heard a lot of powerful feedback at our meeting on May the 19th, and that helped us better understand the needs and interests of a uniquely affected group of communities. We have also continued to receive and compile feedback since that meeting, and we really greatly appreciate all of those who are engaging with us. And while this is our second meeting, it's really the beginning of something new, a fresh start, if you will. At the center of that is a commitment by WASA to an inclusive process that is collaborative and incorporates the community's voice in WASA's decisions to meet our parking needs. Together, we will review an expanded list of potential solutions tonight that includes some suggestions from that first meeting. This meeting serves as a check-in to be sure that we've captured those thoughts, explore some new ideas, and to be sure that we are moving forward in a direction that is considerate of the needs and interests of all potentially affected parties. Once we have finalized the suite of solutions, we will be reaching out again to solicit feedback on the evaluation of those solutions. And then we will circle back yet again to discuss what we learned. As we continue to move forward, the definition of the community broadens in conjunction with the expanded list of solutions. We will talk about many solutions tonight and in upcoming meetings that will impact other neighborhoods and businesses beyond Glosson Circle and Fidelity Street. Therefore, we will be extending the reach of our efforts to solicit feedback from a much wider community whose input will be critical in helping inform the OWASA Board's decision making. So now I want to turn it back over to Will, and he can talk about the plan for tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Todd. And yes, we do have a plan for tonight. I'm going to briefly go through it. So first off, any sort of meeting that I help to organize and put together, we always have a purpose. We have outcomes that we hope to accomplish, and then we have an agenda by which we hope to accomplish that. And you should have gotten that when you walked in, or at least been offered. And so our purpose is to collaborate with community members and incorporate their voice into OWASA's decision-making process. And specifically, our outcomes for tonight, we hope to get a collective understanding of OWASA's aggregated parking alternatives. So you're going to hear all of these alternatives that that you all have helped to contribute to. And we're going to get an explanation on them, have an opportunity to answer any questions that you may have about those. We're going to further dig into community members' needs that they bring to the table tonight by way of help getting our reaction to these, all these on the wall right here, right? And then talking about the reactions that we have to them to really kind of get to the underlying interests and needs. And we're going to do that so that we can make sure that community voice, the community members' voices are included in the evaluation criteria as OWASA moves forward in evaluating the different alternatives. Make sense? Yeah? Cool, thank you. All right, so to that end, we do have a couple of working agreements. Please try to stay present and minimize distractions so we can use our time as best as possible. Please try to lean into listening. Embrace a learning mindset, get curious, ask questions. We want to learn more and we want to learn together. Speak for yourself, use your I. You're all here as individual community members, but also part of a larger community. Pay attention to your own needs and respect the needs of the group. Sound good? Can we do that? Sweet. Look, we're moving forward pretty well. We're almost done with part 2 of the meeting already. Congratulations, everybody. After we get done with this part 2, where I'm just going over the process, then we're going to hear about these alternatives and the evaluation criteria. We'll have a short presentation on that and a chance to answer some questions. And then after that, yeah, we're gonna have the questions, I'll moderate that. And then we're gonna do sort of a straw poll. So what we're gonna have are these red and green sticky dots. Community members only will vote using these. It's really less of a vote, like less of a democratic vote, and more like a heat map. So you'll each have 5 green dots and 5 red dots to respond to these different solutions that you've heard about before. The ones that are really lighting up that heat map, we're going to spend the second half of the meeting discussing and making sure that the evaluation criteria reflects the underlying needs expressed by community members. Does that make sense? Then at 8 o'clock, you ain't got to go home, but you can't stay here. Although it is a community room. You know, I don't know. They'll probably be welcoming for a while, I'm sure. And it says welcome right up there. So, okay. So without further ado, let's hear about some parking alternatives. Yeah? Great.
Thanks, Will. Hi, again, my name's Mary Tiger. I'm the Director of Community Relations for OWASA. And I have a few slides. I'm going to walk you through the draft parking solutions that we pulled together, and then go through the draft evaluation criteria so that we can all kind of look at those together, and then we'll have some time for questions. So the 2 specific outcomes that I'll be specifically talking to are this gain collective understanding of OWASA's aggregated parking alternatives that are under review, and introduce draft evaluation criteria to prompt the discussion of community needs and interests. And I kind of want to reiterate a point that Todd made earlier, that this is a check-in. So we're not to the stage of evaluating the solutions yet. We really want to make sure that with you all, we're developing that suite of solutions and evaluation criteria. So where we go from here, we are continuing to talk to our employees as well and have similar conversations with them. We're checking in with stakeholders at the town of Scarborough and with Chapel Hill Transit and others to, what ideas do they have. We are scheduled to bring the kind of a final list of parking solutions and evaluation criteria to the OWASA Board of Directors at their August 14th meeting. From there, with that common understanding of what those solutions are going to be and the evaluation criteria that they'll be evaluated against, then we're going to do some crunching. And you'll see in the addendum in terms of the evaluation criteria, kind of where are the resources that we're proposing for each of the evaluation criteria. And community is a very important resource for some of these proposed evaluation criteria. So we will be reaching back out to community to solicit input. And then as Todd mentioned, we are planning at least one more community meeting to say, okay, here's what we heard. Does this reflect what you said, what community said? And then we will take that to the board. We talked about a rubric before, and this is a draft rubric, but what we anticipate is having a rubric for each parking solution that's evaluated that kind of categorizes the impacts in a positive or negative way based on what we hear. And then if there are any kind of mitigating efforts. So I don't want to get too far ahead of where we are. We're not filling this out tonight, but I did want to kind of paint a picture of where we are going with this and what we intend to bring to the board to help inform their decision making. Okay, so we can jump in to these potential parking solutions. So we've bucketed them into kind of 3 major buckets. 1 is on-site administrative solutions, 2 is adjacent parcel solutions, and 3 is remote off-site solutions. So I'll just kind of walk through these. Allowing employees to take home OWASA vehicles to alleviate some of the parking needs on the campus. Oh, I do want to point out some of these are probably partial solutions. In the agenda material, we kind of remind everybody the number of parking solutions or parking spots that we're losing on campus. And so in pulling together these solutions, it's all in. So we're not filtering based on the number. We're not looking for a complete address of the need with any one of these solutions at this point. So allowing employees to take home OWASA vehicles, optimizing parking on existing site, so seeing where we can slide in spots on the existing campus. Expanding, reconsidering remote work schedules for those employees who can do remote work. Encouraging alternative modes of transportation, like carpooling, bicycling, walking for those employees that that's available to. Looking at constructing a parking deck on Jones Ferry Road campus, so on this campus. One site that has been kind of flagged is the old Clearwell site. So one of the needs for this parking is that we're building a new Clearwell, which will leave the old Clearwell. Discontinuing any public use of community room. So the public has access to this room. There are some parking spots that are dedicated and from time to time used for this room by the public. And also looking at building the Clearwell and or the PFAS treatment facility with a smaller footprint. So again, those are the two facilities that are getting constructed on this campus that's going to displace a significant amount of the existing parking. Looking at adjacent parcel solutions, we have the expanding Jones Ferry campus onto Glosson Circle / Fidelity Street and breaking that into 3 options. So option 1 is utilizing 131 Fidelity and 115 Glosson, which are currently owned by OWASA. Option 2 is adding to that 114. Those parcels are owned by OWASA. Option 3 is adding in 112. OWASA does not own 112. But if you'll recall, that was a parcel that was originally considered, and OWASA was in pursuit of purchasing that. Parking along adjacent neighborhood roads. Also looking at purchasing 315 Jones Ferry Road, which is across the street here, and constructing a deck. Purchasing 315 Jones Ferry Road and constructing a surface lot. We've added in looking at purchasing the Malott property, which is the gravel yard over here, or purchasing Fortress Fencing property, which is right here. And then finally, the remote off-site solutions. One is to lease 201 Maple Avenue, which is an existing parking lot in downtown Carborough, and finding a way to bring employees from that site here. Also looking at purchasing 201 Maple Avenue. Looking at utilizing the existing Jones Ferry Road Park and Ride. Looking at utilizing other OWASA-owned properties. And then finally, relocating this building, the administrative building, and or distribution and collection, which is the big building on top of the hill, and really has a lot of the fleet parking associated. So our distribution and collection crews are the ones that go out and work on the pipe, water, and sewer. And so a lot of fleet vehicles are associated with that department. So that's what we have so far. So we do want to hear, like, hey, I was really thinking that this was a great idea. This is the time to share, and for those of you at home and you have an idea, you can send those to us, or if you have an idea later, we're kind of in this, let's bring it all out. And so we're making sure that we're really considering every idea out there. But that's what we've pulled together thus far. There were a few ideas that came up in some of our initial discussions that we have said that probably not worth considering. One is parking on top of the new Clearwell. There's some serious drinking water quality concerns around that. Imagine, parking on top of where you're drinking, and if oil or gas leaks anything, that's the community's drinking water. So that's not a risk we're willing to take. Two is OWASA pay for Uber or Lyft commutes. That was an idea that came up from employees, pretty easily able to, from a cost perspective, rule that out. And then number three is abandoning future expansion of our water treatment plant from 30 MGD, million gallons per day, to 20 million gallons per day. So the reason why that's eliminated from this evaluation is it doesn't actually do anything for the parking here and now. Our current facility is 20 MGD, and so that's what we're dealing with right now. So if we take kind of the long-term consideration off, it doesn't do anything for mitigating that parking. Okay. And then this is the suite of evaluation criteria that we've pulled together. So for each one of the solutions that we identify, we're going to be collecting information, collecting feedback, collecting input, and bucketing them into these evaluation criteria. I want to point out that we're not assigning weights to the feedback on any of this evaluation. We're not saying that one criterion is more important or less important than another. You know, we're just bringing out, we want to elicit all of the feedback and information that we can on each one of these solutions against these criteria. So say a little thought for our board, because this is going to be a lot to digest. We'll be working with them to process this. But so again, we have three buckets for the evaluation criteria. Project, so we'll be looking at the capital costs of the solutions. What are the upfront costs of any solution? As well as the operating and maintenance costs. So what's going to be the cost to kind of continue that solution as long as it's needed. We'll be considering alignment with long-term strategies. So some feedback that we heard with you all in this room was, you know, OWASA is a long-term organization. We plan to be here, we're thinking 50, 75, 100 years down the road. So when we think about where is a good place for us to be in 50, 75, 100 years, we're going to be, you know, using that evaluation criteria to kind of future cast some of that. Impacts to construction schedule. So the two projects that we have proposed, the construction of a nuclear well, as well as the construction of a PFAS treatment facility, are critical to the community's drinking water. And that's really important that we are moving along at a pace that we're able to construct those. It's very important for the quality of the community's drinking water. So that's going to be something that's pretty important. It's something that we can activate in a time frame that fits those construction schedules. Operational impact. So what is the impact on safety and regulatory compliance? So that one's kind of, you know, employee safety, community safety, as well as, you know, how we can safely provide clean drinking water for the community. Day-to-day operational continuity and efficiency. Employee morale, recruitment and retention. Emergency preparedness and response. The big resource for this category are going to be our employees and kind of getting their feedback on those latter three criteria. And then social and environmental. So we want to reflect what directly affected neighbors, how they feel about individual solutions. You all, in some form or fashion, I heard different addresses, different communities. You are the expert on your community, and we want to hear that, and we want to reflect that in the evaluation. Climate and environmental impact, so looking at greenhouse gas emissions, impact on surface water quality, urban heat island effect, those kind of considerations we want to reflect it there. Alignment with local government planning, so we have, I think Marty and Tina walked in later. So we have Carborough planning. As Todd mentioned, you know, some of these solutions expand even beyond Carborough. So we want to make sure that we're checking in, that it's consistent, whatever we're doing. You know, how does that line up with the community long-term plans? Organizational culture, so how we interact as a team. So we want to reflect that because there's different impacts on culture, employee equity, and equity and environmental justice. That was a lot of talking. One thing that we will be very cognizant of in this, you may, as you're thinking about these evaluation criteria, might be some that overlap, right? You may put, some sort of impact in one bucket or another. We want to be very cognizant to not double count, right? If a certain solution has one type of impact, we'll find the most appropriate kind of bucket for that. And again, we're going to be coming back to the community to talk about that. But we don't want to double count just because something, employee morale, we don't want to say, oh, that also has an impact on organizational culture. We want to be mindful about that. And that's what I had for terms of presenting. So we have time for questions, and I'm happy to answer questions, and my colleagues here too, I may punt to them as well, but I will let Will facilitate.
Just hit me with a hand and I'll call on you, and then we'll make sure that we get your question answered by the correct person. Yes?
The last bucket, environmental and social, those seem like very different things.
Mm-hmm.
Why that's one bucket or something?
That's a good question. It probably could be a fourth bucket, for just the space on the slide. Again, I think we're not going to be categorizing to say like, oh, project score is this, operational score is this, and social and environmental score is this. That we're not going to be scoring anything that way. So it's really about the individual criterion and having that reflected. So we could easily kind of pull, that apart as well.
And it makes sense to you to pull them apart because of the difference.
I mean, I think they are, like I said, they're very different. They're
sure.
And I guess some of it related to was how, it sounded like the rule at this point was not to weight things. Mm-hmm. How will they ultimately?
It is not our intention to weight them. Yeah. But really just to reflect the complete picture to the board. Inherently, if you look back at that, there is going to be, things listed in positive and things listed in negative, right? And so visually, you might look at that. So we'll be mindful about that. But yeah, there's no intention to weight that one criterion is more important than the other.
Yes.
I just want to state this question, because it's related, but I think in my mind it will come up later when we're talking about the criteria, so if it belongs then go ahead. But you did just say we're not trying to double count. Mm-hmm. But I do see staff morale under operational, I see organizational culture under social. To me, there's multiple points on here that all say employee morale and culture. So if it's on there multiple times, how are you going to make sure things aren't double counted in those categories?
Would you bring up off the template, but rather to the... Yes, please.
So in the thing I have, it has more description under the bullet points.
Sure.
So you both have staff morale is number 3 under operational, but then you also have organizational culture under social and environmental, which says reflecting OWASA's teamwork. And equity, and then you have a 5th one that's employee equity. So employee equity is in essence represented twice already. Employee culture is represented 3 times already. How will that not double count?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it kind of the perspective and where we're going to for the resources is what the thought is here. And I'll invite Monica to speak to that as well.
Yeah. So for the staff morale, recruitment, and employee retention, that one was really focused on how the employees, we're thinking about how it impacts their ability, happy at work. We think about, is this a place that we're going to want to stay? And we think about, are we going to be able, what are the solutions? Does it impact our ability to attract employees to the organization? When we think about employee organizational culture, that one's focused on how does the organization interact. So how do employees work together? How do we maintain the successful operation? So this is something that really speaks to the culture of the organization. I think I said this in the very first meeting. OWASA is a culture of, we have a very collaborative culture. So for a solution like working remotely, that impacts our ability to work together. So what we hope the criteria will do is like help us kind of pull those pieces out where it changes the organizational culture. And then employee equity, this one's kind of focused on how does the solution impact the employees individually. We think about like their work-life balance. We think, is there a group of employees that is more impacted by a solution or another? Does that make sense?
Yes, I guess I think this fits maybe under the criteria solution, but I hope we could get them equally as robust points that are as subtle for how it's going to affect community members in terms of retention, who would move here, who wouldn't move here, how it affects the people while they're here, and the equity. Like those are all different categories that aren't represented on the community side that are getting their own subpoints on the staff side.
Okay. Did you?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I do appreciate the nuance of like recruitment and retention, and so I feel like those are reflecting employee equity. So if we were to think about like how we move these tags around to like be a little bit more balanced, I think employee equity is being represented in these considerations that you have. But I really do like Sarah's perspective of can we get that same level of nuance for how it impacts like Nadia's ability to walk her dog behind her house, which is where 131 is, right? Or like things like that. So I emphasizing how can we get more nuance to reflect community space as well.
Okay. So I've made just two notations up there that when we get to the evaluation criteria and we're talking more deeply about it, the one of them I've noted at the potential of splitting the environmental and social impacts, justice impacts, and the other one, I've noted it right now as consolidation of employee needs. I hope that reminds us all that there's also a bigger conversation that might have of finer tuning community needs as well. Other questions? Yes? And then next.
Utilize other OWASA-owned properties for the solution that's utilized other OWASA-owned properties. I'm sorry, I wasn't at the first meeting, but are there like properties identified for that? I guess I was just
I can show you
curious.
a map. So these are properties that OWASA owns and kind of where they are relative to the Jones Ferry campus, which is kind of there in the middle. So University Lake, which OWASA doesn't actually own, leases from UNC, but it is a OWASA utilized property. Mason Farm wastewater treatment plant is in Chapel Hill, off Old Mason Farm Road. Nun Mountain water tank is up there in a residential area, I believe. The rock quarry is out Highway 54, as well as our off-site biosolids land, and then the Cane Creek Reservoir. So that helped.
Yes, I had a hand over here.
So what will have you got any numbers on what it would cost and how it would affect the users of the system?
Do we have cost, have we started to run cost numbers on this? And then what might be the effect of potentially increasing costs, I think is the concern on users, on system users.
We're not quite there yet. We're still pulling that information together, and it will be pretty high level too. I mean, there's 20 solutions, so but we do want to get kind of in a ballpark at least to relatively compare to one another. But that's the next step of where we're going, and we'll touch base with that analysis once we have it.
Well, the reason I raised the question is because we have a lot of people in this community who can't afford extremely high water rates. And somehow it's going to affect them because they're the users of the system. And I mean, I know it's going to be severe.
Yes?
So to Braxton's point, it seems to me that on the evaluation criteria, the things that it's missing is the impact on rates.
Uh-huh.
So you've got under the social, you've got directly impacting the neighbors, the immediate neighbors, but not on the full ratepayer community.
So, when evaluating the criteria, so is cost a criteria that, and I'm gonna ask this out of ignorance. Are increases in cost directly passed on to users in the systems that we have? Okay, so what I'm hearing is that yes, cost is going to be something that they consider, and that, yeah.
Well, they have costs to the organization. They don't have costs to the individual ratepayers.
So, okay, so what I asked was, is that cost directly passed on to the consumer? And the answer is yes. So it's one and the same, I think. And if you would like me to, I have made a note about concern over user rates, and I'm happy to, and I put a check next to it, and I'll also put as a criteria as well.
You can see that. That's too small.
You can't see my writing?
No. Get a new marker too.
Okay, yeah. It's just sort of my parking lot, but I'll write bigger, and clean it up there. I saw another hand. Yes?
Is there any information on like the effect? I'm guessing, this isn't probably totally the case, but you're trying to get back up to the 225 number, right? So when thinking about like, in weighing the trade-offs for each one of these, I'm curious about, you know, like, well, the 315 space or Malad or fortress fencing, how many spaces that would add to like the lot that you'd be intending to build? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't point this out when I pulled up this draft template. But right up here we have got the parking spots mitigated and whether it's a partial or complete solution. And then the estimated time to establish that parking solution. So that's kind of two things that are outside of the criteria that are just kind of fact. And yes, we will be trying to fill the gap. We have a need for the parking spots that are lost. It could be a patchwork of solutions. So we're open to that it's not, one individual solution.
Yes, JJ.
I just want to get a clarification question. What is the cost overall for the PFAS and Clearwell projects that y'all are undertaking? So we have some context for how big that project might be versus our parking lot solution project. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but how much are those estimated to cost?
The PFAS, we've got 92 million budgeted for the PFAS. The well, we've got 82 million currently.
So whatever our parking lot solution is probably going to be a much smaller percentage than that, and is not going to be driving the rate increases that we're expected to see, given percentage-wise. I don't know how much a parking deck costs, but I feel like a parking deck or a parking solution is probably less than $170 million combined, which I think is what's estimated to drive a lot of those rates up. So I just wanted that clarifying question for context versus both.
Okay. That the assumption you're making is that the cost for the clear well replacement and the PFAS facility is going to be much, much higher than that of acquiring land and or building parking solutions. Okay. Yes.
One thing also I noticed is kind of partner and community engagement. So I see specifically we have like the town planning. We have a lot with kind of the internal WASA staff, but I think having the ability to hold forums like this and have partners hosted here, have meetings here, making this kind of a regional hub for collaboration is also really important value. So that's maybe something I would want to see included either in one of those categories or added.
Yeah, I want to make sure I understand before I mark it up here. So So Wawasa acting like through the space we're in now, is that what?
Being able to hold space for collaboration, yeah, maybe for people who are only visiting once or only coming once a year, community days. Yeah, people may be engaged in research partnerships or fellow utilities that are trying to get together.
Great, thank you. Yes, right here and then.
You're gonna be removing PFAS from the water. What happens to that PFAS when it's removed? It's a forever chemical.
So our current solution is using something called granular activated carbon, where it's gonna essentially trap the PFAS within media. That media then goes off to a regeneration facility that goes through an incineration process, with destructions associated with that. So yeah, we worked really hard to find a solution that minimizes the impacts on the environment.
Yes?
Of the 225 parking spaces currently here, I wanted to ask if there was an idea of how many are used like day to day versus like are they ever all fully used?
So the question was if we fully use those 225 spaces?
Yes.
Yeah, if all staff were to report here, in addition to all of our equipment and vehicles, yes, all 25.
Oh.
I kind of had two separate things, but then I wanted a follow-up of this person's question around the usage rates of parking. Because I'm curious about that picture in terms of times of day. You know, you could say like Sunday through Saturday, because I'm not sure exactly like what types of things Wawasa is doing, but I imagine it is around the clock. So I was curious if you could flesh out those usage rates a little bit more specifically in terms of days and times of days.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that on the weekends that all 225 spots are used. I think, like kind of like you're saying, it depends on what's happening after hours, that those spots will be used. I don't know that I have data in front of me now that kind of tells you how many are available and how many may not be available. I think it depends on what the incident is. But I would expect, you know, when we talk about emergency preparedness and response, this is information that we'll be collecting as we're looking at that as a potential evaluation criteria. So it's information we'll have when we come back to the next meeting.
I guess that was related, I know that something relatedly requested by community members was to have a separate entity do a parking study, a parking need study. Yeah. And then, yeah, are there ways to reduce that outside of this challenge that we're working at?
Yeah. So we felt like between our consultants that we've been working with, as well as the staff and as well as the community, that we had come up with a lot of solutions, potential solutions that could meet the needs of the organization. And we felt like the organization was the folks that are best suited to be able to answer how we respond in emergencies and other daily operations. But as we kind of work through with some of our other community partners, again, maintain our openness to other thoughts and ideas.
I guess it was less of a question of like how to build public parking, but a third party that is looking at like, what are the actual parking needs for day-to-day use as well as emergency situations.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, that really wasn't part of our planning, was to have a third party look at that. I mean, I think once all this information gets kind of pulled together, we'll present that information to the board. Folks that want to take a look at it.
Seems to be that like the nature of the question, like I understand the value of bringing in like a third party expert on that, but so much of it is going to be understanding our operation.
Yeah.
I think we bring somebody in, we're essentially going to be telling them this is how we operate. So, it's a fair question. I think it's
Sorry, I forgot your second thing. Yes, please.
Okay. In receiving this presentation, I did want to reflect one thing that I heard in the first meeting from residents that I think shifted in this presentation was the residents suggesting a little bit more flexibility and creativity around the temporary parking need that's created over the time frame of the project compared to long-term parking uses and creating long-term, developing land in a long-term scope for a short-term need. And so when I saw that some of the proposed solutions looked like purchasing a lot, purchasing other pieces of property, one thing that I wanted to add is how I heard community members share was not in Owasso acquiring, owning, and expanding more land, but in renting or partnering with spaces, with landowners, with business owners, to find shared solutions. And so I wanted to clarify if that was mishearing when y'all were proposing purchasing a lot and purchasing other parcels, or if that was a specific decision that the staff made between these two meetings.
So I think, when you're talking, can you go back to the, when you're talking about things like partnering, with other entities, those we consider to be under the on-site administrative solutions. So it was, or no, I'm sorry, it's under remote off-site solutions. So when we think about relocating administrative or DNC departments, part of the considerations is, is there spaces that we could relocate permanently, but also are there spaces that we could lease to relocate them temporarily?
Mary, would you be able to go to the adjacent parcel solutions?
Yes.
That's what I was highlighting, was the purchasing of Fortress, purchasing of Malott. I think how I heard it was community members were suggesting leasing, or trying to partner with businesses, because I think I heard they were like, hey, that could be a benefit to the business where they have additional revenue or some sort of like share in that, rather than outright Owasso owning more property.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly think talking to those folks about the potential for leasing those spots.
In terms of like environmental resiliency, given what happened with Mason Farm, right, and the recent flooding, I'm curious about like you probably have done this somewhere, but like impacts for stormwater and flash flooding and things like that, as it comes to some of these developments.
Yeah, I think that might show up in emergency preparedness and response, impact on flooding,
And climate and environmental.
Impact. Yeah.
That'll show up, and we'll bring that information back at the next meeting, to be able to put the pluses and minuses.
To also show up in the alignment with local government planning, because we'll have to follow all the stormwater requirements of whatever jurisdiction those solutions fall into.
Piggybacking off of that, maybe could we add stormwater to the environmental impact? Because I think it'll be a very specific and very clear one of surface parking is less permeable and does impact stormwater more. So could we put that as a criteria for how this will impact stormwater and runoff?
So you would like that to be separate from environmental impact?
Yeah, because I think like Sarah mentioned earlier, the nuance of some of the nuances that are reflecting the values of Owasso and its day-to-day. When we look at environmental impact, there's not just urban heat island, there's also stormwater runoff and permeability. There's also the oils that are leaked from the parking lot, right? So I think acknowledging more of that nuance, and I think the stormwater specifically is important because it already impacts neighbors on Boston currently.
Okay, gotcha.
We have a whole department that
And the town of Carver has a whole section, or the program Carver has a whole section
Kind of on that point, another thing that I heard in the first meeting that I thought was here, but in hearing the presentation, I think could be an addition. So how I read alignment with local government planning was actually thinking about the Scarborough Comprehensive Plan, and some of those longer term planning documents, but when I heard it described, how I heard it was alignment with local zoning laws. And so I kind of wanted to clarify if y'all were also thinking about the comprehensive plans that have been set forth by the town, because I heard those as significant priorities for a lot of the community members.
Yep, that was an oversight on my part in explaining it, so that is part of that criterion.
I want to make sure, it looked like maybe I didn't finish. Were you done? Did you have anything else to do? Yeah. Good. Cool, thanks. Thank you. At the end, I was like, oh no, I didn't cut him off. Any other, yes, please.
and as well as the comprehensive, Carver comprehensive, was the community climate action.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I haven't been to all the meetings, but has OWASA done a space analysis? So we've got Jones Ferry, we've got Mason Farm. And my recollection is that Mason Farm has a lot more land on it than Jones Ferry, but I don't know if that's accurate. And I don't know, because it's in the water, the floodplain, I don't know how much can be built out there. But has there been any consideration of moving things around?
Yeah, that's gonna be part of, when we go back to the list of solutions, there's relocating administrative and DNC departments, so utilizing wastewater treatment space.
So that is possible, you have the space there.
Yeah, well, part of the evaluation will be, do we have the space there, and if we do, how much? Yeah.
Okay, you ready to put some sticky dots on some walls? All right, let's do it. All right, so now I'm gonna tell you, you get 5 greens and 5 reds for up there. Use them however you want. They are for individual community members only. They are not for OWASA staff. They're not for our friends from the town of Chapel Hill or the town of Scarborough or folks who are here as a resource. They're for community members. Okay, I've got them right here. We're gonna take about 10 minutes. And in that 10 minutes, feel free to take a break. I think there's some snacks and use the restroom and do whatever you might need to do. But at the same time, let your voice be heard. And again, kind of where these show up is where we're gonna spend a lot of our time making sure that we've dug deep enough into the evaluation criteria, which we got some feedback on now, but we'll have some time to, I think, dig further into it. Okay, we ready?
Will, can I ask a question?
Can you, yes.
There were a couple solutions introduced. I think leasing a lot, leasing fortress fencing. Were there another solution?
I think that it was more the short term, the short term versus the long term there. That's the only one that would have fundamentally changed that. I think the other ones were for the evaluation criteria.
So can I put
Yeah.
Well, I have one more question. Can you explain, I don't know if we've explained the purpose of green versus red dot. Like, what is your
Oh,
red
yeah.
dot?
Well, I mean, green, I like. Red, not so much. Yeah, it is pretty simple with these. But yeah, green is for the ones that you approve of, that you like, and red is for the ones that you are not interested in or see as in.
And you have a fixed amount of dots?
Yeah.
You have a fixed amount of dots, but you can put them wherever you want. Yeah. Okay, so but you only get 5 apiece. 5 reds, 5 greens. All right.
Is there only, can you put like 5 dots on one solution?
If one were so inclined, yes. It's not a democracy. It's a heat map. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we live in it ostensibly. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
So I think one inherent challenge in this is that I think we brought up like there's a temporary.
Yeah.
So this doesn't take that consideration.
I mean, yeah, it's sort of a hard thing to put in, but I think that we've just added. I think Mary's adding the temporary solutions right now. So I think if like we got a lot of green dots on that, I would probably say something to it. So I think we are adding an option for more temporary solutions up here. That I think folks could vote on. All right, I'll stand right here. Come and get them. I just wanted to make sure that they end up in the hands of one of you members, so we would have handed them out when you came in.
Let's move.
All right, have fun with that. Huh? All right, there you go. How about that? There you go. Three. Bob, good night. How are you?
Exactly. I was just thinking that, when we think about renting, I don't know how much they're aware that renting is not a permanent solution. And it's money that is going to be withdrawn from it's a long expense that never is. It doesn't.
You don't get to move, the time when you actually go and construct a parking lot, like people and the contractor will pay them, know like what the environmental yeah, there he is.
You know this man, you know this lady. He's my role.
So down there.
You learned that from me. You should say that about him. Then I introduced him one day as somebody he wasn't. How you doing, Tom? All right. Good. Why don't we pass an ordinance?
But you'd be able to get points for like a permeable pavement or something particular.
Oh.
It's a great time. Get up in the air.
All right, I got one more. Anybody else? All right. About 5 more minutes, 6 more minutes.
I guess it's the time. I live off of, Weaver Daddy and Weaver Daddy Extension. Weaver Daddy is from the Global Market. Okay.
All right, yeah, I think make it.
Off of Weaver Daddy Extension and Homestead.
Yes.
Sonoma, yes.
Okay. Yeah, we have some
We moved that in January of 2010, and previous to that, we were living with Martin Luther King, the mobile. He used to be mobile. Now they make it like a storage place. Yes. Across the BP. My wife and I like to go.
Do you have my green ones?
Yeah, but the woods, and it takes like an hour and 30 minutes to do a sit. Yes.
Oh, we have, no, I got, does each person get
From Mexico. Mexico State. State is the states around Mexico. La ciudad de Mexico. I am from the south, where it borders with Guerrero and Michoacán.
You know, like when you have parents. Like I've never been able to go. I'm gonna go all over the mountain. You know, the floor is like shake it off or anything anymore. Sits on your feet. Alright, what are we looking at over here? We're gonna be You're right out there in Mebane next to the strip mall. In an old Walmart. Yeah, good work. Yes. Very Indeed, yes. Hey, I was gonna say,
God allows that.
I mean, let's just start there or whatever, somebody brings it up. Yeah, maybe you can just be like, yeah, I think we can. We talked about it during the break, sorry about that. I think.
I don't know if that some, yes. Are you familiar with
I just want to spend our time meeting their needs.
What day is it?
Okay. There's certainly a lot of people that want to partner with
Okay, so you now the area that you work is on the other side, but it borders.
I'm only facilitating right now. I'm mediating. That's an extra $25 an hour, you know.
I have a friend who was given
It goes back. We've known each other
and then
5 years? 25 years.
Alright.
I know. That's a good question about my map. I was like, oh, you want to see my map?
People have
I was like having to look stuff up. I'm like,
all of that land going to
I got a map of that. It's too light.
a lot of that, those planes have been.
we gotta do that again.
I thought that might be with. Yeah.
No, see, not just right now, but it's pretty much everything.
They're gonna go work for Carmel.
They make a road, a new road for half.
You're just going. You're like in the tail of a donkey.
And so the road, so.
Yeah, it is like.
No, we're not on board with this. We're not on board.
Public meetings.
You would like. You shouldn't have ever heard it. I was like, I don't think.
I guess that's who's property.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you.
Maybe 3 more minutes. 3 more. Stick your stickies. Got to shoot your shot. I like that. I'm in like okay.
I'm Jeff, and I'm this
Come on, what is that? Together. This is a family organization. Look at mine though. My soccer team made it for me. It's got all the players' names on them and everything. Yeah, it's
So I hope that we have enough water in Oaxaca.
yeah, right? Like look at that. That's
Seafood
I'd say that's called basic. You know, that's a basic model.
Don't make fun of my big dumb cup.
Because when all of those houses are built,
Okay, a couple more stickies.
how much that's gonna affect?
Who's doing math?
No.
Alright, well help me out. Alright, I'm gonna start with big greens or big reds.
We have a church building.
Okay. I feel like we're gonna probably find a way to
south-wise
goals and like where we can include that in the evaluation period. And then I feel like if we do the other one, that's a start, then we'll see what else. Get your punch and your pie.
I think it's the partner with.
Me too.
That door? Oh, I thought. Well, it was real stuffy in here. Okay, but if you really want me to close it, I will. I don't know if that door.
My son is, I have to think now, he's 30 years old.
I mean,
My daughter is 28.
yeah.
Yes, my daughter just graduated last year.
Yeah. Right.
Public health. Community.
Oh, Gillings? Okay.
Yes. And my son is doing a PhD program in School of Education. He's going to start his last year. He has no idea whether. I guess he will be open to whatever opportunity. At least it seems like we
Alright!
A lot of participation.
Everybody come on back. Let's have a discussion. Come on, little. That's my agenda. I better remember it though. Okay. I have done some totaling up of the numbers, but again, this is not a democratic vote. This is to help us understand where sentiment lies, right? And what we're going to do with where sentiment lies, besides get a large understanding of it, we have a lot of green dots down here on this end. We have a lot of red dots concentrated in here. But the purpose of this exercise, other than to see this heat map in front of us, is to understand if we have the correct evaluation criteria that underlies the expression of these preferences, right? In other words, what are the whys here? Okay, and to make sure that we understand that and that they're incorporated into those, into the evaluation criteria. So I'd like to start off with our big greens, okay? And we're going to talk about a couple of these big greens, and I want to hear a little bit about our whys, especially paying attention to why these are preferable, okay? and, relative to the current evaluation criteria we have. One thing that is going to be pretty obvious for me to point out right now is that there seems to be many community members that have preference for temporary or short-term solutions. I think that might be a really good spot to start off with our why. Because I don't know for sure that that's included in the evaluation criteria. All right, but I'm seeing these over here, right? I'm seeing these sort of the leasing options that came in later, and the partnering options are more popular than the buying options. So that's a discrepancy that I wasn't quite ready for. So why? Who wants to start off? Yeah.
I mean, the reason why I voted for one of those temporary options is because you're losing parking places temporarily. You'll get them back unless I'm mistaken. You will not ever.
I think it's a partial. Who can answer that with numbers?
Like 97, there will be like 97 that will be lost in the long-term deficit. So there is still some permanent loss that will occur.
Yeah, that was actually the only thing distributed by the email that did not make it onto a screen.
Oh, was it the loss of the temporary loss versus
Someone
the
quoted
permanent
the
loss?
225 for existing spaces on campus. And then there's the temporary need of like 175 and a permanent need for about 100.
Is that accurate enough, by the way? Okay, good. I just want to make sure. Bob's got it, and then I think Bob's got it, but I want to make sure.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm a math.
It's on the top of it,
Excellent. Thank you for finding that.
But did that, so I know there was mention of, constructing parking where the old clear well is currently, once that is demolished, is that included in these?
It is, under utilization of the current site.
But
So no,
sorry.
I'm sorry, the deficit doesn't include utilizing any of the solutions that were introduced. So that's the deficit if we did nothing.
So some of these could be part of a potential solution for the long term.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
I think part of my why about why I prioritize some of these leasing options is that my goal is to minimize surface parking as much as possible because of its heat island impacts and its environmental impacts, the way that it reduces green space. And I think that destroying land for a 2-year parking deficit that has permanent impacts doesn't really make sense in a long-term perspective when you have parking lots available for lease. So for me, I prioritize those short-term options because it preserves the most amount of land and reduces the amount of construction that has to happen. That's why I prioritize that.
Okay, makes sense. So I want to follow up on that. One of the things that I'll say is that we spoke during the break, and I think breaking environmental and social justice impacts into 2 separate categories and the evaluation criteria is something that's amenable to everybody. So I think we're good on that. So then my follow-up would be, do you think that that can be sufficiently covered if it's in a description of environmental impacts and doesn't necessitate a separate
Time as a factor or permanence as a factor?
Yeah, it's a hard one for me to kind of articulate into it. But maybe you could just do that. Maybe you could just call it permanence.
I think permanence is an important factor.
Because under every category, it's like, will it impact employees long and short term?
Yeah.
Will it impact OWASA long and short term? Will it impact the environment long and short term? Will it impact the community long and short term? I don't think it's its own, it's all the pros and cons.
Yeah.
It's gonna be under the pros and cons of all of them.
So there are a little box at the end from the negative impacts that it's a permanent impact.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. How does that sound?
Yeah, so it's a consideration in every impact where we're like, okay, is this a short term
permanent or a short term or a long term
You
impact?
said mitigate, I think mitigation was on there, right? It was
Yeah.
positive, negative, and mitigation, so maybe some of the mitigation is but it won't be long term. There's these negative impacts, but it could be mitigated by being temporary.
Gotcha.
I think it's just an appropriate consideration because y'all talk about planning long term, right? That's how it works when you're early planning, so I think it's just that's the important.
how I was also thinking about it was what's been invited, which is time. And you know, the kind of immediate and short-term need that will be presented by having parking displaced, and also thinking about the transformation of the sites. You know, what is the primary use of these sites right now, and is it going to be inherently changed? Is the use and the land going to inherently be altered? So it's got something to do with permanence, but it also has to do with use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm totally catching what you're saying, and I'm not quite sure how to articulate that as an evaluation criteria.
I think the evaluation criteria is like, is it altering the current use of the space? If the use is residential, if the use is, I mean, land as, you know, trees and buffers is kind of a more vague use in how I understand planning terms. I welcome corrections. But, you know, kind of compared to what's there now, how much is it altered?
Yeah, yes. And would it be possible that altering it would be a positive thing? This is what I'm thinking about as an evaluation criteria. Like, just is it altered? Is it necessarily a good criteria?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I'm thinking altered for surface parking.
Ah, okay. Yes.
There can be positive alterations that come alongside, like I see board members suggesting, you know, really creative ideas. But Mary, sorry.
Well, I was trying to think of a criteria that could be used against everything and like alignment with status quo. Is that one that like, and sometimes the status quo may not, you know, may not be positive, and so a change to that would be positive versus, I don't know, I was just trying to think about how to apply that to the whole suite of solutions. Yeah. And status quo seems like it's what's existing now, whether good or bad, and it's a change to that.
Would some of that be represented in the alignment with Carborough town plan? It's like either keeping stuff the way the plan wants it versus, or creating stuff versus going against it. Like, is that rather than like change being good or bad, is it in alignment with the plan? Is it moving spaces, either preserving spaces that are desired or moving something towards a more desired type of space?
I mean, my guess was it probably should be covered by that, but based on my experience, I don't know about the current Carborough land use plan, but I got a pretty good idea based on my years working with the town and stuff. But yeah, so it does seem like the usage of the land, it might be best to tie it to something that's. Is there agreement at least that is a, yeah.
Well, I'd say one thing about that is I'm a little concerned that if Carborough has this as an allowed use in their ordinance, and Owasso says, no, we're not going to do it, that doesn't mean someone else can't alter that property in the future. So I don't know how we use it as an evaluation criteria if it's just because Owasso doesn't use it doesn't mean that it changes how Carborough sees what that might be eventually.
Wait, I kind of disagree because right now I don't think Carborough would change the zoning for any of the properties being currently considered. But after the fact of this, it could, which is exactly what happened on Jones Ferry, where Family Dollar was going to put in, was looking to develop that lot. It was zoned resident or zoned commercial, and what the proposed use was permitted. It needed a at the time just for the adjustment, and after that change was the variance was denied. It then Carborough then did change the zoning of that, but I think that they might put it into some city litigation situations if they were to change that.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to clarify, is the concern the net loss of permeable space or permeable land cover? Is that what we're getting at?
There's two sort of nuanced things, which I think, like, I started with that statement of like why I value these short-term solutions. Christine, I think, is speaking more towards something that is, the words that come to mind are alignment of character. That is, right, I think the concern is residential lots being converted to surface parking or ephemeral streams being converted to surface parking versus using regions that are already surface parking or are already commercial utilized, right? And so there's a big shift in character from a home or woods to a more commercial usage. And so I think Christine is trying to get something about that alignment of character and how it reflects alignment with the current status of the land.
That makes sense, yeah, thank you.
Nuanced thing.
So you don't want a rezoning?
I'm not necessarily looking at rezoning right now because, like Tamara said,
Rezoning isn't in the purview of this group in any way, shape, or form, y'all. I'm gonna have to stop us there. But we're not gonna go down a productive road if we go down this road, and I'm gonna be directed and tell us. We have no purview over zoning, we have no, you know, so, none of us in this room, I believe do. Yeah.
Moving on, I'd like to second Braxton's comment that affordable housing begins with affordable water. And I feel like any costs that are incurred here are ultimately going to be passed along to the ratepayers.
Yeah.
And I know from working on campus that state law requires that employees pay for all of the new parking decks. Parking decks are exorbitantly expensive. And so to get a parking permit on campus now costs hundreds and hundreds of dollars a year because we're required to pay for the parking decks. So in terms of the why, I put red dots by both of the parking decks because I don't think it's going to be equitable to the ratepayers in the future.
Okay. And we do feel like we have costs covered with the two comments. Yes.
Well, just related to that, I put.
Oh, and also I'd like to add, constructing parking decks creates a huge amount of CO2.
Okay, there's environmental impacts with parking decks as well. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I put maybe I didn't understand the point correct, but I put a green dot next to the alternative modes of transportation, because as a university employee, I don't pay for parking, I utilize public transportation. I always had to do that.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Lots of employees have to do that as well.
Following up on that, that's why I put green dots on utilizing other OWASA properties. I don't know how full the Jones Ferry parking ride gets, but to me, the utilizing other properties, if they're also on bus lands, basically functions as an OWASA parking ride, where you can utilize other properties, park there, catch the bus, so we're here.
Okay. Is there anything to add about the park and ride situation from the first time around? Or any context? I'm remembering we talked about it. Yeah. I don't remember the context, so I'm asking y'all.
We are meeting with Chapel Hill Transit later this week to talk about partnering with Chapel Hill Transit and how any of these existing solutions align with existing routes or future routes, or where that is. So that's something that we're looking to explore with them.
I think, yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Can we get notes from that meeting, or will we be able to get notes
From the meeting number one?
From the meeting with Chapel Hill Transit?
Sure.
So could somebody break down the timing for this? Like, how soon is this additional parking going to be needed in comparison to how long it would take to implement these different options? Like, building a parking deck is going to take years and years. And if the solution is needed next summer.
Yeah, I'm really wishing I put this table that's in Addendum A on a slide. So the phase 1 is where the biggest parking pinch is. That's during the construction of the clear well. And that's slated to begin May 2027 and to last through May 2030. And then phase 2, there's a little bit of relief. That's construction of the PFAS treatment facility. The parking deficit is 108. That's slated for August 2029 through August 2031. And then post-construction, the deficit is 97, a total loss of 97 spots. And that'll be post-August 2031. So yes, the timing, it overlays all of this, right? And the ability to meet needs at different times.
So which of these solutions are feasible for phase 1?
So I think one of the things, I'm gonna step in there, I think one of the things is like the day-to-day operational continuity and efficiency is going to be one of the things, one of the factors that they're going to consider.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But feasibly, they're not gonna build a parking deck by next year.
Yeah, and that's where the impacts to construction schedule comes in play. So the information that we'll collect will help us better understand.
Okay, so the impact analysis on the solutions has not yet been.
No.
That's correct, yeah.
Non-viable ones haven't been removed yet.
That's correct, yeah. Yeah.
I guess a couple that I was kind of confused with was both the leasing and purchasing of the Malott property, the fortress fencing, and the Maple Avenue. And those.
We added the leasing at the request of the, of some of the community members here that didn't feel like the purchase of it was a preferable option, but the leasing of it would be.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think some of that was in the June 26th. The board was a leasing of.
And that was Christine's point, is that the leasing part got missed, when it was presented, so that's why we added it.
But are conversations already being held with those entities?
We've only reached out with some of those to make them aware that they are under consideration. We have not pursued any sort of purchase or leasing agreement or anything like that at this stage. We don't know if that will actually be one of the recommended solutions or not.
Okay, I'm not seeing very many hands here, so I just want to circle us kind of back around. Consider the evaluation criteria. Consider the dots that you have. I think I'm gonna want to circle back to make sure that we incorporate the permanence in the right way in those. But I want to make sure that we've sort of got this evaluation criteria in a final draft sort of stage, you know? So like, what are we considering? And think about, again, why did I really like this idea? Why did I not like this idea? Because this is what's really gonna inform those underlying needs, right? And can I find it up there? If I can't find it up on there, we gotta find it up there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, make sure that your reason that you evaluate.
Yeah.
Hey, Will, Pedro's go.
Oh, yeah.
I have a question for the public and for everybody to think. OWASA board is being concerned also with the cost of water and the increments of the cost of water that is gonna be put on the customers. And if, my question is like, if we were able to purchase this piece of land and be able to construct a parking lot, this would be a one-time purchase, and we wouldn't be spending money year after year and day after day, you know. It would be one-time expense. Regardless we take this option or not, we also paying for something, you know. So if you were to have an analysis of what the cost would be like in a 30-year or 40-year of this rental versus the cost of the purchases, would you like to see something like that? Will that make you rethink your options or our options?
I got 1, 2, 3, 4 that all came in the same route. So since I haven't heard from Emily, I'll go with Emily, and then everybody will get it. I promise.
I understand why people might like leasing options, but then it also puts you in the exact same position the town of Harbor in, which is that those leasing options can change at any time. And what seems like plentiful parking, if you don't own it, it can change. It can be bought, it can be redeveloped. So if it's a short-term plan or a long-term plan, leasing really isn't gonna give that, because you only have as long as your lease is for. So I think that's something that needs to be taken into consideration, because so many of the lots that the town of Carrboro uses are rentals, and many of them are month to month. And if they were to lose those, like if somebody else were to come in and buy them, I understand that Wassa and town of Carrboro have a little bit more say than individuals, but I just think that, like, pairing with your thing about the cost of it, well, you can't really determine the cost when you don't know if it's going to be available past 5 years or 1 year or 10 years.
So while there's, what I'm hearing is that while there's a lot of concern in the room about the negativity behind the permanent solutions and how they can change land uses and stuff like that,
And then
there's
what
also a
would be
concern
the
about,
problem? Like, then what would be the problem? Like, where would be the options? That, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you might then be put into the same position now, is if you put all your eggs into the lease bucket, and then that was taken, and then all these other properties are also taken, like, there might be less creative options at that time down the road.
Understood. Let's see. I know I had like 4 of you right here. Chrissy, go ahead, and then JJ, were you on? No? Oh, who? Were you on?
I just want to follow up. Yeah, it seems like.
Go ahead, follow up, and then I'll come over
Maybe
here.
some mix of like short term and like permanent solutions, whether that's also utilized.
So I guess that looking at those three, the Malat, the 4020, and the 201, that if any of those would potentially be a better use than what they are. I know that like the one that we were talking about, like 201 is a underutilized parking lot, and I think that if an ownership of that lot could change, that it would then be utilized by a more creative, like a Wassa.
So like, not all parking lots are created equal in this case. Like some of them would be like, because like in this case, it wouldn't change the use of something. And at the same time, like it might make better use of existing space than is currently. What is there right now? I don't know.
It's a parking. It is a parking.
No, I assume that. I'm like, what park for who?
Carmel.
Thank
The
you.
town of Carmel, it's unlikely that Wassa will be able to buy it.
But I mean, I feel like Wassa has eminent domain.
Yeah.
I don't know about that one. Let's go to Christine, and then we can come back.
I think that what I'm hearing in this is like creativity, sustainability, weighing impact, and that's kind of what I appreciate, like what Pedro offered and Emily, because that's where my brain is too, where I think that there's like the opportunity to balance, that there's a short-term need and long-term vision. And so I'm curious what that trade-off looks like Pedro offered, of like, what's the cost after 20 years? Because also if Wassa is going to have to continue likely to be thinking about what new operations they're going to have over a 60-year period, that might also come with new transit demands or new demands on the site and the campus. And so that's why I'm excited about solutions that are already thinking in that direction, rather than let's expand laterally into residential space. And so I think there can be a balance of like short-term, to get through parts of construction, there will be leasing with other businesses or utilization of nearby spaces temporarily, while this long-term effort is engaged. And I appreciate Bob bringing up potential detrimental impacts of larger parking, what do we call them?
Decks, yeah.
Decks, thank you. And like, I'm curious what the environmental trade-off is and the cost trade-off after 20 or 30 years, because if you're going to have to keep expanding parking horizontally, does it reach a tipping point after a certain amount of time? And I don't have the answers to those questions, but I would be really curious to know those in the context of how these solutions are reviewed.
So I think one of the things that I took from that and there was a lot there, but this idea of like, not just environmental sustainability, which we've talked about a lot, but there's like an economic sustainability, and that's not really it either. It's the sustainability of like, long-term sustainability of options.
Do a Wassa and community plan forward you know,
Yeah,
50 years.
Yeah.
And thinking about the future generations of the community. And what does that look like? Because folks have talked about the impact on ratepayers, but is that a short-term impact, or is it eventually a long-term impact if OWASA has to keep buying land where land values are going up in this area, and they have to keep expanding horizontally and acquiring more parcels to be able to sustain operations?
Sure.
So I think that there's a lot of questions around that longer view and like creating a way to measure that cost and environmental impact farther out than 4 years.
Gotcha. Would it make sense to have like a long-term sustainability category? For the evaluation criteria?
It does seem like it's on the project alignment with long-term strategy.
Yeah.
But I think that's like OWASA's long-term strategy versus like, this is alignment with like community, environmental, like it's just long-term perspective overall.
Is that right? I want to check that with Christine though, because I want to make sure that, because I'm not.
I mean, it's the financial / like ratepayer impact. It's the environmental impact of like how long will you be able to sustain this number of parking? Like how long does the solution actually sustain OWASA's operations? So yeah, it's kind of an operational question, and then there's an environmental impact. If the parking that is being sought will only sustain operations for 10 years or 6 years or whatever.
Yeah. So we want a long-term sustainable solution that's as low impact as possible. Yeah. Which makes a lot of sense.
Or if you think about it, the largest impact, the positive impact for OWASA.
We are talking about the greens right now, or we were at some point. Yes. Okay. Yes, sir.
What is this community getting out of?
What is this community getting out of?
Yeah,
what?
Losing a lot.
What? Getting out of the expansion of the campus?
Yeah.
I'll let OWASA.
Especially if the one I'm thinking about is chosen. What is this community getting out of? A lot of traffic. I mean, any improvements going in there? The side ditches, the road itself.
So you're talking about the individual solution and
For the neighborhood.
what the community.
If it's chosen.
Yeah, so
I mean, we're talking about a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
Who've been there for years. And OWASA can give you anything. You gotta pay for everything you got.
So people were hoping to gain from, there's the graphic that Barry put up where it has the positive and the negative and then the mitigating factors. I think one of the things we're hoping to get out of that is if that solution were to be chosen, what could, so like for example, if it was the parking lot, I know some of the concerns are losing lots of green space, so understanding that that's a negative impact, what's a potential mitigating factor for the loss of the green space? So just one example for that. So we're hoping to get that out of this process.
I have a direct answer for that. It's quick. The 3 Glosson lots are ½ acre apiece. The Lions Club is 1 acre. Altogether, there are 2½ acres of land there. If you buy 112 in addition to 114, an acre holds 150 spaces. So if you owned all 2½ acres, that would leave plenty of room for a really nice green space at the bottom of Glosson.
That's what I'm thinking about, because that's where that water's gonna be coming.
So.
That hill.
Right, and that wet area can be rewilded. You can return it to being a wild creek, what JJ was calling an ephemeral creek. And there would be room for a pedestrian passageway there. There's plenty of room for both a parking lot and plenty of green space for Boston and for us. Because if they only use
losing the whole nation. That's going on, and I don't want to see it.
I understand. I just want to point out the numbers.
So I think
1½ extra acres of land.
I think one of the places that we started this conversation long ago, and that I think some of us don't have the benefit of having participated, was mitigating some of the effects of parking at the beginning. And then I think we sort of have moved into considering much larger alternative. So we have, in our first meeting, one of the things we discussed is, okay, if parking's going here, how do we mitigate the effects? What do we want to see? And then I think we've moved into, okay, let's start considering a larger swath of alternatives. And I think, by the way, where we're going, and I think if you didn't hear this at the beginning, I think hear this now, is that as we consider these larger alternatives, the stakeholders group that's going to be here gets larger, right? So just consider that, right? One, then two, yes?
Okay, following up on what Braxton said with regard to what is the community getting. It would be good to put that as part of what you're presenting, say, with this alternative comes what he's talking about, the green space, the parking, the whatever, the sidewalks or whatever, so people understand it better.
Sure.
Rather than just saying you're getting 100 parking spaces and that's it, what is the community benefit? Other than, better water and all of that good stuff.
Sure, also important. Yeah, also important.
To be clear.
So using Bob's numbers of 2.5 acres?
2.5 acres altogether, it's a lot of land.
So the kind of analysis I would like to see is that 2.5 acres could be used for parking, or it could be used for 15 to 30 affordable housing units. And the community desperately needs affordable housing units. So what's the trade-off of surface parking versus affordable housing? I know it's not a realistic comparison because we don't know that somebody would choose to put high density housing on those two lots, but it still gets to Braxton's issue about what does the community gain and what does the community lose.
So I think one of the things we all have to keep in mind is the decision-making process here, right? At the end of the day, the OWASA board is going to be the one that considers that sort of thing, and I think everybody has a right to petition them with whatever sort of comparisons they're going to make. I think at the end of the day, this is a place to voice these things and for these things to be heard, and that this is, but I'm not sure if we're gonna do, if that's an OWASA thing, to do, how many.
OWASA engineers constantly do cost benefit, cost effectiveness analysis. So they know how to do that, they do it on their other projects. I would hope that they choose to do it on this one too.
I'm sure that they're going to do some cost benefit analysis for the different things, and I know the cost is going to be an important factor, and the benefits as well that will be going out as well. And what I want to do is make sure that we have them all really well outlined for the board to consider and for us to consider next time around. I've seen two. All right, who was up? 1, 2. Anyone else who wants to get the queue? 3. Go.
I just kind of wanted to follow up on your point and why I put my red dots on purchasing either 315 on the lot that is sort of alignment with the Carver downtown area plan that's kind of in the works and being explored, and also the comprehensive plan. That these properties in particular are, so adjacent to downtown, so adjacent to the university, they're prime for redevelopment, for housing, hopefully affordable housing. So to think about them, or to try to move away from having industrial property closest to the center of town, I think is really important to think about in terms of keeping community close. So that's just, also I live right there, so I think that is why my red dots went in those spaces in particular, on top of just the environmental impact of, stormwater and everything on this adjacent neighborhood.
Do you feel like that strategy that you're referencing is clearly laid out in Carver planning and land use planning?
I think some of it's idealistic. I don't think it's totally clear, but I think the ideas behind it of trying to incorporate, especially this Jones Ferry corridor, as more of downtown, because when the lot, when I don't know exactly what's like the 50s or 60s when we first were on that property, when this property got developed, there was no 54. These apartments weren't here. This was the outskirts of town.
Sure.
And it's not anymore, and so I think we kind of owe it to the community at large to think about moving away from having this close to town.
Gotcha.
So thinking about, I mean, I do think it's important for the staff here to not have to be just like pushed super far out and have, I mean, I think that's really crucial for you in developing, you know, retention and having things to attract good staff. But just saying like, okay, we're just gonna have a big parking lot across the street like that, there's not a community value at all, in my opinion. So.
I want to make sure that in your mind that's included in alignment with local government planning.
Yeah, and I think it is. I think the whole, I think the idea about developing or trying to incorporate this corridor as more downtown is sound. Like what this town is trying to do. I'm not sure that all of that is totally fleshed out. I've just seen that.
Yeah.
At one time, so, and also that is very dependent on the people who own these properties to say like, oh yeah, we want to sell to somebody who wants to build housing, or you know, they may not want. They might want a big fat check, and they don't care where it comes from.
Right.
So a lot of that about having less industrial property, creating more community out this way is dependent on who owns that property. And
sure.
To bring us, back to Lawson, I was wondering if, I mean, I hope the solutions move away from expanding the parking, into there, but I was wondering what, the future, like what will happen to those properties if they're not, like, turned into parking lot. That's just like in my rural, I guess, how to do this, but.
Yes, he was.
I thought Braxton was making a bid on the. That would have to be determined by the OWASA board. That's what you need property.
I'm sorry, I missed your turn. I got you back.
I have a question about like what you guys put up the OWASA people take home, and the reason I ask is that, like, is that even a real option? Like, in the sense that, I mean, maybe neighbors wouldn't want a big OWASA truck in their, you know, in their cul-de-sac or their, you know, place, but is it really important that all the vehicles be in the exact same spot? Is there some reason why they have to be in a parking lot altogether?
Are you talking about the equipment, like?
I'm talking about,
could it be
parking
looking at multiple spots?
Yeah, I mean, could it be that there's multiple places that these vehicles are at? I mean, does it have to be in one spot?
No, it doesn't. I mean, that's some of the nuances in some of these solutions.
I mean,
Like,
the reason I bring it up is just because, like, I travel a little bit and I go to cities where they have these, like, parking apps where you, like, Spot Hero, where you can just, like, grab a spot, someone says, I've got extra spots, you know, and I know that's not long term, I'm not being, you know, that's not realistic, but I'm just saying, like, does it have to be a paved interval service somewhere in this neighborhood, or are there other options where they could be?
So one thing I'll say is, like, when we were together developing options, it's something that was considered, like, and it's how we came to some of this criteria, like, yes, we could use offsite, and one of the criteria they have to consider when they consider offsite is, like, how will emergency response be affected? So if we have a natural disaster, or if we have a pipe burst, or if we have a, you know, how will that be affected? And so it is something that I know that the group has brought up in meeting number 1, and that has been overlaid into it, but I want to make sure it's overlaid enough. But I know that, like, some of, like, the off-site parking, or the consideration of, like, moving employees to another place, like, those are all, like, considerations that go along under that sort of same umbrella.
Well, I'm just wondering, if it's up there as a real option, is that really an option? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think it is, yeah.
have, like, you know, 3 or 4 trucks somewhere over here, 3 or 4 trucks. I get that there's emergency response, I get that, you know, there has to be a way for people to get to and all that kind of stuff. I'm not trying to minimize that at all. I'm just saying, like, it seems that a lot of these trucks are just sitting there, you know, of course emergencies happen whenever they happen, but, like, you know, could there be some sort of combination of
Sure, yeah. Makes sense.
I'd
Let's
like
get-
to quickly answer Braxton's question with an oversight tonight.
Whose question? Whose question?
Braxton's.
Oh, Braxton, gotcha.
On May 19th, it was stated that all the traffic to the parking lot, if it was put at the end of Clausen, would be coming off of Jones Fair. None of it would be on Clausen.
Okay.
And that wasn't pointed out tonight.
Okay, we're not, so I wanna come back now, we have like 10 minutes at the most, and I wanna be able to wrap this up on the way out. One of the things I wanna come back to is I wanna make sure that we've incorporated this stuff into the criteria. That's where we wanna end tonight, right? And so like, I'm gonna just briefly, a couple of the changes we have made is to separate out environmental justice and social justice, right? That one was sort of off of the bat. The other thing I think is the inclusion of this idea of long-term sustainability. And then I think the other thing that I've talked about including is like this idea of permanence, right? Of like, but there's some like, I think there's still some probably wordsmithing that needs to happen with the idea of permanence, because permanence, like we talked about, can be a negative, or in some ways it could be more of a positive, depending on like in what way we're looking at it or what the frame is. So I just want to make sure that like we have these things included, so that when we come back together, you know, like we have the criteria down. We're going to have time to talk about the solutions. Okay? Yes.
So I think one thing that I had heard on the June 26th board meeting that I was curious about, don't want to give a sentiment, but would want more information. Was there one of the board members had presented this idea of the Clearwell being on one of the currently owned spots and being used as park space once it's built. So I was very curious.
About parking on top of the Clearwell? Oh, okay.
No, not park space.
The Clearwell used as park space? Like the current?
Other cities have done it.
Yeah, like.
Talking about it. It was a detour, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but I feel like if that is actually something legitimate, potential, like I feel like that should be up in the air.
Yeah, we had captured it under the utilization of the current footprint. I think it was within the first bucket. Yeah, so on-site administrative solutions, we'd considered it as, we were gonna consider that as part of this, so.
If I recall correctly, it was the question by one of the board members was that being on the 131 Fidelity, the Clearwell being there.
Yeah, so as part of this process, one of the things we were gonna do is see if like the Clearwell would even fit on those properties, you know, and so that if it would fit, then is there potential co-use of that spot? Yeah.
I'm super intrigued. I can't picture it in my mind, so like, you know, like, but it's cool, it sounds cool, yeah. Sounds super innovative. Okay, so circling back, with those sort of three changes, what else am I missing? What are we missing here?
We go back to the criteria.
Yes, please, yes.
When you stated out loud just now, you said social and environmental justice, but I think it's social and environmental as categories. They both have a justice and equity goal play under them, but there's multiple others as well.
Tell me more.
You restated, when you were summarizing, you said you need social and environmental justice to be their own categories, but I thought it was.
I think I misstated it anyway, but yes.
Social justice was under, equity is under them, but it's not the only bullet point.
It was, so I don't want to be the one to wordsmith here. So social, let's see, environmental impact, right? That's one. And then you said, and then equity has been one. And then
social justice.
Okay.
Right?
No, I think it's just social, the same way it's just operational. Like, what are social needs? One of the categories under there is going to be equity, which means justice. But the whole category is not social justice. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's just social and environmental are the categories.
Operational, social, and environmental.
Gotcha. Okay.
Two
Gotcha.
separate categories.
Yeah.
Yes.
And let's not forget about the value that adding parking spots, what is the value that brings to all the customers of Wassa and to Owasso for long term?
So, yeah, so long-term is something that we're adding to the criteria as well, yeah. Anything else? Take a look at those evaluation criteria. Think about the reasons why these felt good to you or did not feel good to you, and make sure that we have now with those three additions that includes that. That's our charge for tonight. That's what we walk out the door with. That and a general feeling of well-being.
So, sorry, are you asking if everything we've talked about some things and we haven't wordsmithed? Are you asking if we've wordsmithed enough, or just to make sure that the general ideas are there?
I think both. But like as far as like wordsmithing goes, I think that there'll be time for that as well.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to understand, is if you're saying the criteria are done now, or are we continuing, like what's the next meeting?
So we will work up meeting notes from this and get it out by the end of the week. We're preparing agenda material for the board. It goes to the board next Friday. So it will be a relatively quick turnaround that we're asking community members in attendance to review and give us feedback on those notes, so that we can make sure that what gets presented to the board is as accurate as possible. The board meeting is a public meeting. You all are all invited to attend. So if you're not able to provide that feedback or we miss the mark in some way, that's an opportunity as well for you to clarify.
1, 2.
Can it be a draft that goes in front of the board? Does the board have to decide at this upcoming, they have to approve the final version this time?
At the August 14th meeting?
Can it be September?
We want to get cracking on the evaluation because we want to bring in a lot of input, into that process, and that's going to take some work. So, I don't want to say yes, absolutely, because no, we very much.
Given that we couldn't convene in June.
Yeah.
That we
process
need.
was slowed down by a month
Exactly.
because we couldn't meet in June, which would mean September instead of August.
Yeah, so we were originally planning to present the evaluation criteria and solutions at the July 10th meeting. So we bumped it back a month to the August 14th.
Just the lists.
Just the
criteria.
the solution and the evaluation, not the evaluation.
Oh, right, I know.
Yeah, we still have.
They're not evaluating at the August
No
meeting.
evaluation.
They're just being presented the criteria and the.
So if I wanna state the community, hypothetical community equivalents to the 3 employee ones, do I message that to someone?
No, I think that's probably
Right now, okay,
Yeah.
so we have number 3 under operational, the staff recruitment and employee retention. I think the neighborhood equivalent of that is something related to the homeowners, like neighborhood value and how values, how much people would want to move there or not. And then under organizational culture, it's neighborhood culture, how it affects, because one is for landlords, one is for the people that actually live there, which is sometimes not the landlords, it's the renters, how it affects the culture in the moment. And then equity also needs to be its own for neighborhood equity, who gets affected along lines of race and class and those sorts of things.
So okay, the last one, equity needs to be separate under the neighborhood thing too, or just if we make it separate?
There is a specific one to employee equity, so I want a neighborhood equity one too.
Okay, I think that's what that's supposed to represent, but I want to make sure that that I'm gonna say that correctly.
Yes.
And so then there's also one for staff retention. I want to make sure there's one for property value. And then there's one for organizational culture. I want to make sure there's one for neighborhood culture, because those are all different categories.
So property value?
I would do maybe property value and neighborhood desirability.
Yes, so neighborhood desirability, the equivalent of staff retention. For them, it's would people still want to work here. For us, it's would people still want to live here. Yeah. But it's I don't think neighborhood equity is the same as 100% as environmental justice, right? Like, I'm wanting to make sure that that one is added on as its own bullet point.
Yeah, so that's definitely happening, but do you need a separate thing from like?
Employees get a separate thing.
No, I understand, but I'm not sure that they mean the same thing. I think that like I'm not going to say what I think employee equity. I'm going to say what they say employee equity means, but I don't think that they're equivalent in this scenario. So I want to make sure.
Yeah, the equity and environmental justice is meant to capture neighborhood equity, community equity. Employee equity is among our employees who's disproportionately impacted.
But those are, I hear you, but we want one that says, the same way you have employee equity, the extent to which the burden is distributed fairly among workers, I want that says the extent to which the burden is distributed among neighbors. That's different from environmental justice as a concept.
What's wrong with putting it up there, ma'am? Just put it up
I
there.
know, I mean,
Just put it up there. Let us deal with it. We can deal with it as a board. Put it up there. So
I think that we're spending multiple hours in here together working together towards these things, and I think that like my goal is to work with folks collaboratively. So like, what's wrong with putting it up there at the end of the meeting? Like, it's because I take my role seriously, and like just putting it up there because to get it over with isn't what I do, you know?
That's not the idea. The idea is to take everybody's opinion and everybody else's comments equally valuable.
Yeah.
Hers is valuable because it represents other people.
In this case, I want to make sure. So you want a separate for social and environmental equity, and then a separate one for neighborhood equity as well. That's what I'm understanding.
I think it's confusing because you haven't actually broken social and environmental up yet, so I can't visualize where you're putting them.
I think once that splits up, that criteria also has to be split.
Keep environmental justice under environmental equity, under social, add the same way they have employee equity, neighbor equity.
Okay.
How it affects the members of the neighborhood along lines of race and class.
Okay.
Who has the biggest burden?
Okay. Other additions?
I have a clarification question. You will put these notes together and get it to Mayor.
They'll be sent, sent out. Yeah.
Will those then be in draft form and come to the community the way that the previous one was?
Yes.
Okay. And when can we expect that?
The end of the week.
And then we need to give it back.
Next Wednesday, ideally, so that we can receive that and incorporate that into the board agenda material.
So by the end of Wednesday, by the end of Wednesday?
Yeah, let's say midnight on, or like 11:59 on Wednesday. I will not, Wednesday night I will, it will be Thursday morning when we're like addressing, like we're still in college.
What is that? What's the date of that? August what?
Next Wednesday is August 6th.
Oh, that's good.
If that's what you're asking.
Yeah, that was my question.
Yeah, you're impressive.
When is that meeting, the board meeting?
August 14th.
Oh, August 6th.
August 14th is the board meeting.
So feedback by August 6th?
Is
that what I heard?
This feels really fast. I'm
Okay.
just putting that out there. It's just a feeling that I have. Nobody needs to respond to that. I mean, like everything in this process, I'm glad we're having a voice, but that feels fast.
Okay.
So we get the notes Friday, but then Monday is when we get the updated rubric. Is that what you said, Monday? Is the updated rubric?
We'll have the notes from this meeting on Friday.
Yeah.
And then we're pulling together the updated rubric based on the feedback that we've received tonight and the feedback to those notes.
Okay.
And that will go to the board next Friday.
When do we get it?
Next Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so notes go out this week, feedback by Wednesday, August 6th, and then the draft rubric goes to the board following Friday, or the rubric?
It'll go Friday, August 8th. The agenda material will go to the board and the community.
On the 8th. Will that be via email or on the website of the board?
We send out, I believe you all will be in the mailing list that we have for the neighborhood has been getting, hopefully, all of the notices of the agendas where this is being discussed. So it will be linked in there. It's posted on the website.
But you will have,
Excuse me?
you will have some here.
We will have some here. Yeah, oh, yeah, come by. We'll print you up. Absolutely. Yeah, we can print up anything that you want if you come on.
Or if you would rather have it mailed to you, we can do that as well.
Okay, so next steps up there. I think we have the switches to make. I want to make sure that we've incorporated that correctly. So maybe just make sure that Mary and I have that at the end, that I've incorporated that correctly. And then, yeah, we'll have notes out this week.
Yep, and
Yeah.
this week.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all very, very much. Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you for your work. Wonderful.
Hey, I met with Amy Armbrust today. She just had all of these.
We're in Durham together.
You were talking about scientists, and you did such a good job at this. Thank you, Kate. She's so, like, I hope that with the philosophy are pushed out. Yes, there's.
No, I didn't feel like they were coming at me. When did they make this?
The community didn't get our own version, like, you could have written out our bullet points. You know what I mean?
And we got together.